Hello and welcome to another episode of the Pen Fans series. In this series, we ask pen fans to answer three fountain pen related questions. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to do that right now. On this episode, we have all the way from Ireland the one and only Ben Walsh from Gravitas Pens, and we have three questions for Ben. So let's start right away. Ben, how did you get into fountain pens?
I might have already answered that, but I'll give it a summary. I did it to prove my dad wrong. Basically, I got into fountain pens because I started making ballpoint pens out of
Mm-hmm.
concrete, and eventually I grew a pen business, and I needed a new challenge. I always used fountain pens when I was in school, so I always had a love for fountain pens. And my dad also collects pens, so I decided I wanted to make a fountain pen, and it was a challenge that I needed, and I took it, and it took me years uh, to actually achieve a working fountain pen. But yeah, that's how I got into it, just to prove my dad wrong.
Excellent. For the full answer, you can watch the podcast that we did with Ben and where he explains everything. Let's go to the second question. Ben, what is the most difficult part of producing? Because you produce a lot of writing instruments, but what is the most difficult part of it?
Precision. So I have to get everything very, very precise. For me, anyway, I like to work to very, very high tolerances, and to achieve those tolerances consistently is not easy. I have a lot of rejects. Well, I have a 1% reject rate, which is a lot considering. So that is
Mhm.
the hardest part of producing a pen. The second hardest part is actually finding a CNC firm that is able to keep up with the demand and the quality demands that I need. I actually went through seven different machine shops before I found the company that I use. So my company, I'm never going to tell you who it is, but his name is Kevin. Kevin is my man,
Cooking right
and
now.
Kevin makes my pens. And Kevin is absolutely amazing. And believe it or not, Kevin makes pens for many other companies and many other big people. And when I say he's good, he's good. So finding a Kevin, that's the hardest part.
Everybody needs their own Kevin. All right, thank you for answering question number two. Let's move forward to question number three. Because Ben, what is your top tip for someone that's using fountain pens?
Um, don't buy an expensive pen for your first ever pen. Buy a cheap pen. When I say cheap, don't go really, really cheap, but buy middle ground. And I'd recommend two pens, a Lamy or a Kaweco. And the reason is they have very, very consistent nibs, very good variety of nibs, and they also come in a great variety of colors and styles. So you'll never be short of an interesting pen. So if you're looking at a Lamy pen, I'd look at a Lamy Safari. You can get demonstrators, you can get really cool colors. You can even go for the there's a is it called the All Star, the aluminium
Hmm.
version? You can get metal versions. You can get really interesting nibs. You can actually work your way up in the nibs. If you want to get a gold nib on your Lamy Safari, you can actually go and do that. So you can start off from a standard steel nib and work your way up to a gold nib. And then Lamy pens, they have some really, really interesting pens, like the Lamy 2000, for example. Very interesting pen, very interesting nib, really, really high quality. But you got to start small and you got to work your way up. And the second pen I'd recommend is the Kaweco, and it's the Kaweco Sport. Once again, it's a very good pen. Uh, very good, very consistent nibs. Uh, they come in a variety of colors as well. Uh, a Kaweco is a smaller pen. It's a pocket pen. So if you're going to have two pens, have a full size pen and a pocket pen. The Kaweco pen, it's legendary. Uh, I think my first ever fountain pen was a Lamy, and my second ever fountain pen was a Kaweco Sport, and I've never looked back. I have several Kavecos of several Lammies. With the Kavecos, you can also work your way up the grades as well. So they come in very interesting materials. You can work your way up to metal pens. Sometimes there's unique materials. I think they have acrylic versions. I've seen acrylic versions. So there's a bronze version at the moment. That's a fantastic pen. You can get gold nibs. They're really good nibs. Um, and Kaveco, they're actually innovating at the moment with they're coming out with I have I don't know, am I allowed to talk about this? Is it well known about the piston? Okay. Yeah, Kaveco's coming out with a very, very cool pen soon. And two very, very cool pens. And trust me, you need to keep an eye on them. Kaveco pens, they're going to be competing with some of the big piston pens out there. And that is pretty interesting. That's pretty cool. For that reason, them two pens. That's what I'd recommend. Start off small, work your way up the grades, and then you can work your way into any pen after that. You can have some of the indie pen makers if you want some really interesting pens, interesting materials that you're not going to get anywhere else. Look at some of the indie pen makers. There's hundreds out there at the moment. You can look at some of the more established makers. There's several makers in the United States who make some fantastic fountain pens. If you look at Ian Schoen, he makes some incredibly well engineered pens. They're higher priced than a standard pen, but there's a very good reason for it. Any of the high end machine pens that are made in workshops um, in the United States, they're more expensive because they're very, very well made with really high quality materials. So you need to look at some of those pens. Start with Ian Schoen. Um, who else can I think of? I can't think of any other off the top of my head, but you can always work your way up the grades if you really want to. Giants pens, Netherlands, very good. They actually use some fantastic materials. They actually have an opal. They use actual bellow opal in a pen, which is ridiculous. I'm telling you, it's not easy to turn that stuff because I used to turn concrete and bellow is even more insane to turn. Anyway, I'll I'll stop now. But yeah, that's my advice. Start out small, work your way up.
Excellent. Thank you for so much for this amazing tips, Ben, and thank you so much for doing this pen fan series with us. If you are watching this on our YouTube channel now, make sure to subscribe. And next week we have another episode with another pen fan. Bye bye.